Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining me today from the Fitchburg Fire Department, my friend, at least I think it is, Adam Dorn. That was my New Year's resolution. Are we still buddies?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
I was so afraid that we weren't going to get into being buddies this year for 2022, but shoot, you've made my day already.
It's like we're bringing the band back together.
It's a pretty bad band if that's the way it's coming back together, but that's right. We're ready to go, Adam, to turn gears very harsh here. We're going to take a look at some very unfortunate situations. Within the last month on the East Coast, there's been two large fatal fires, and it's devastating that this has happened, but it does open up a chance to kind of talk through it. And you brought this idea forward, so I'm excited to talk about it. But fire in New York City and the fire in Philly both had fatalities, different circumstances for each. But if anything, we can find some fire safety out of this and what had happened in these different situations. So we'll start with the recent one in New York City, 17 fatalities so far as of the latest update. It was set higher, but thank God it's come down a little bit. But this one, apparently, as it stands, there'll still be lots of investigating going on here. But closer to home is it potentially was started by a space heater. And we've talked about space heater, fire safety, heat safety already this year. But as you look at this as a whole, first and foremost, Adam, what did you see from this fire that stands out to you, minus the fatality of the surface?
Yeah, like you say, the number of fatalities on the surface is it's overwhelming for any department. I mean, in New York, this is the deadliest fire that they've had since 1990 at the Happy Land Social Club there in the Bronx. But 17 people have passed away in this one fire, and 8 of those being children. I mean, that's a lot for a huge city like New York, but something like that could happen here. It's not that far-fetched with some of the situations that were presented there. You get a large building that does not have fire sprinklers in them. This is a strong possibility of stuff happening. People use space heaters to supplement, for the most part, their heating in their homes. And some people actually use the space heaters as the primary source of heating in their home, which is not the best way to be using a space heater. It should be for supplemental purposes. So that's one thing that's come out of this. And then the other thing that they've kind of found in the last couple of days here is that they're looking at some of the door closure devices that may or may not have been operational when this fire took place. That's really big because that's one of the reasons they're looking at to see if the smoke spread throughout the building because the door did not close properly.
And when the door doesn't close, and we'll talk two fronts on this. First, when you're looking at an apartment building or business complex, a lot of time, or even in schools, you'll see this, that doors just automatically shut. Fire alarm goes off, or smoke detector alarm goes off, shuts those doors and closes it. If the doors aren't closed in these buildings, what's happening that's helping increase the fire and the spread of smoke?
Yeah, not most of the time. It's not that it's going to increase the fire, but what will happen is that the smoke will spread throughout the building much easier and faster. It looks for this path of least resistance. So if your apartment is the one where the fire is at and you don't close that door, the smoke will go from your apartment out into the hallway. And now it affects not just one apartment, but every apartment that's on that hallway. That's why when we go do fire inspections, we want to make sure that the doors at the end of the hallways are closed, because those are supposed to be shut. They're designed to be shut so it slows the spread of smoke throughout the building. Sometimes people will prop those doors open because they don't want to open a door when they're doing laundry, going back and forth, or they're moving in and out. That's one thing. But when you are done using that or having it propped open and you're not going to go through that door anymore, those doors need to be shut. They're designed to be shut for a reason. So that's one of the possibilities that could have been in place here, that these doors did not all shut. I don't know for certain. I'm not saying that that's the case, but it's a possibility, because we've seen it here in Fitchburg where there's apartment buildings with these doors. When we go do a fire inspection, they're propped open for whatever reasons. We unprop them so that they do close. So we're trying to make it safe for everybody. And then, who knows what happens after that.
Yeah, and it's like I said, we don't know all the facts yet for coming in on that fire, so we're still gathering that, but definitely a tragedy. 60 people injured in that one as well, and mostly due to smoke inhalation. And smoke inhalation in general, if somebody doesn't have a SBA, how do you say it? SBAC? Is that get it right?
SCBA,
Well,
self-contained breathing
whatever.
apparatus.
I was just gonna say when you have your air pack on, but I thought it'd be cool. But yeah, Andrew hasn't told me enough yet to be cool. Yeah, that people are breathing in toxins. They're not going to make it if they're not crawling out and staying below the smoke line.
That's right, and that's why we teach is get below the smoke, or stay close to the ground where the good air is. Even us, we stay close to the ground when we can't see. It's not that we're breathing in the bad stuff, because we do have our SCBA on, but for us, it's what can we see? How far can we see? How far can we move? Is there a lot of heat there? All of that stuff plays into a factor for us as to how fast we can move throughout a building, and the tasks that we can get completed in a specific amount of time.
All right, changing gears, we're going to take a look at the Philadelphia fire. That one had 13 fatalities in it, including 7 children. This one, still not certain on the circumstances of what started said fire, but it's something that's come out of this in some of the reports is there were smoke alarms in the complex, but none of them went off, and can be devastating. This, again, same as just talking about the last scenario, this is something that can happen easily in your home, apartment building, or business.
Yeah, and another tragic fire that hopefully we're going to be learning a lot from. But like you had said, there were at least 4 battery operated 10-year smoke alarms in the building. The problem is that none of them sounded. We don't know why yet, so I'm not going to try and get into the guessing game as to why that's the case, but they did not sound for whatever reasons. The guys in the fire department went in, they did search and rescue and they found multiple victims. What has come out through some of the investigations so far is that this is a single family house that had actually been converted into 2 apartments. So one of the things that we kind of take away from this is to make sure that we are going through all the proper channels when we convert we're converting a house into apartment buildings, or we're just going through a change of use, or whatever it might be, right? We want to make sure that we're following all of the proper channels when we make these changes, so that we can make sure that all the proper fire suppression, detection elements are in place when a new building or new occupancy takes place, or if there's other things that are needed. So like I said, it's another tragic thing. There's, like I said, 13 people, and I think it's like 7 or 8 kids involved. Again, it's another huge city. And when we look at it from our perspective, like, oh, that couldn't happen here, but it really could. That, people divide up their houses and make them duplexes quite a bit. We just need to make sure that we're taking all the proper steps to make sure that it is as safe as can be. Because any kind of an event like this, even if it's just one person that's injured, the effect that it has on the staffing that we have and the additional resources that we call in is astronomical. It is, people would be very surprised as to what it really takes to help one person that's injured in a fire, let alone thinking 13 or 20 or whatever number you want to put in there. It's a lot.
Yeah. said, and it's unfortunate that both these tragedies happen. But as you said, it gives us a chance, an opportunity to look at it, learn from it, and use it for education and training. So I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it. We just scratched the surface. We were kind of discussing that hopefully after some investigation, we'll be able to come back and take a look at these two incidences and see what happened and see what's coming out of it. I will note too that reading through both of these stories, the community outpour that both of these communities are seeing is pretty impressive as well. And as you said, 200 firefighters fought in the New York City fire. I didn't read on the other one how many were in the Philadelphia one, but it takes a large amount of people to deal with that, and that not only affected the lives of the people who were lost, the families, but the fire department, public safety. So it's everybody working together to come and keep it safe. And that's what we're bringing it here. We want to pass on and share some safety off of it because, yeah, a tragedy like that could happen anywhere, including right here in our own backyard. So Dorn, thank you so much for your time and insight on this. We appreciate it. Happy New Year to you. And let's get started with another great year.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Jeremy.
You bet. We'll take a quick break. More to come. You're watching Talking Fitchburg.